Okay, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are excited to be with you this afternoon for our prepping young people for workplace readiness through mentoring, panel, and community discussion. And we're going to explain to you all very, very shortly exactly why we've also called this a community discussion. Um, One of your co-moderators for today, Sadiq Ali, proud executive director of Maryland Mentor, and I'm joined by our amazing Maryland Mentor team and some absolutely amazing panelists, both older adults, of which I am one, right? So no disrespect to my panelists, and also some really, really amazing young adults who will be joining us for our conversation today as well. So again, let's go ahead and get started. If I can move this thing off my screen. Okay, awesome. So we just want to say welcome. Again, as we alluded to a little while ago, as we were kicking things off informally, this month and every January since about 2006 is internationally recognized as National Mentoring Month. So with that being said, we welcome you all and really what we like to think of as a celebration of mentoring, as a celebration of young people, as a celebration of potential and what we can do as youth practitioners and adults to support the development of that potential is of the utmost importance. And I would venture to say it is the common thread, not only that unites us, but I would also jump out there and say that it is for many of us life's work. And for those of us that have been in the youth development field for more than just a hot minute, understand this idea that we don't choose this work. This work chooses us, and this idea that this is there's a very spiritual connection. And I just think that National Mentoring Month is an opportunity for us to just get excited, more often um, than normal. And this is an opportunity for us to share with our friends and colleagues all that we have an opportunity to experience every day. And that is the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and the lows. And, we can think of no better group than to share that with than this amazing group that is with us this afternoon. And we really, really appreciate you all for being here. So just some quick logistics for our conversation today. So number one, everybody, this is actually a meeting. So you all have the power to unmute yourselves, but we ask that you stay unmuted until you have a question or a comment. But along with that, please keep our chat box lively. That's something that we're always so excited to be able to pull from the chat box in terms of those aha moments, those questions, those comments, any thoughts that you might be having as it pertains to the conversation happening on the main stage. But please keep that chat box open. We've seen partnerships be developed. We've seen all sorts of really cool things happen right in the chat box. So unlike the DMs, the chat box is public, so y'all don't gotta keep it in the DMs on this one, okay? You may also use the raise hand feature and button that will alert us to let us know that you have something that you'd like to say. Towards the end of the presentation, we will ask you guys to complete a session evaluation, which allows the Maryland Mentor team to go back and make sure we're still providing content and programming that the mentoring field and youth development field finds helpful. Additional questions we ask to be held until after that evaluation. And again, second to last, right? Obviously, learn and have fun, but during this process, please give us as the Maryland Mentor team and each other space and grace. This is something that I've been sort of using to open up our trainings, et cetera. Going back to early 2020, if we can believe it, we've almost been a year in these really strange, abnormal circumstances. But that space and grace is so key because everyone on this line with us this afternoon is going through something that nobody else knows about. Everybody on this line, that includes young, old, in the middle, we're all going through something. And that manifests itself, that pain, that trauma, et cetera. A lot of what we're going through, what we're seeing on the national news, a lot of it is internalized by us. So we always ask for space and grace as we start off these conversations. So again, welcome again. We're excited to be with you all. A little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be framing this conversation with some research because we believe heavily in evidence and research-based ideologies as we're pursuing our work. So we'll be framing this conversation around youth workforce development through some research. And then we're going to jump into our workforce development panel, which I'm so excited about. But then we're also going to be bringing you all as audience members into the game. there is an immense amount of expertise and experience, and we would be absolutely off our rocker if we thought that we were the keepers of all knowledge related to this topic or any other one. So we're really excited to be able to include the voices, the perspectives, and the ideas of everyone that's present. So we ask that you guys get in the game with us towards the end of this conversation today, and then we'll wrap up and head out of here. Really quickly, I'm joined again, as I alluded to earlier, by our Maryland Mentor team. You'll also be hearing from Antoine today, but Sada, Carlos, Olivia, Dakota comprise our amazing Maryland Mentor team. And again, we cannot do the work that we do without them. And once again, I'm Sadiq Ali. A little bit about Maryland Mentor. If this is your first time tuning in with us or joining us for a training or a roundtable, et cetera, but Maryland Mentor, we are a part of the national affiliate network of the National Mentoring Partnership. So we actually are one of 25 statewide or regional affiliates that has the shared mission to increase the quality and quantity of mentoring relationships and to close the mentoring gap. So essentially what all that cool language means, right, without going deep into this slide, is that we are responsible for providing a variety of trainings, resources, and technical assistance to support the hundreds of different mentoring and youth development organizations that are here in the state of Maryland and Lord willing, soon to be Washington, D.C. and the greater Washington area as well. So again, we are an intermediary. We're not a direct service provider ourselves, though a couple times per year we do provide direct service programming, but you know, all in all, our jobs are to support the youth development and mentoring field at large. And then lastly, here are a few of our additional resources. So everything from the National Mentoring Partnership, which is our national partner, the National Mentoring Resource Center. If you've not visited the National Mentoring Resource Center, you are missing out significantly on all of the different pieces of research and data, et cetera. Super helpful when writing grants about mentoring and youth development. So much really, really good stuff there. The Mentoring Connector, if you are a youth development program or mentoring program here in Maryland and you've not registered your programming on the Mentoring Connector, please make sure you do so ASAP. This is the database which allows you to be found by those would-be mentors, especially during a month like this month, which is National Mentoring Month. Say that 3 times fast. And then a ton of other things that we won't go into on this slide, but again, we always encourage you all to visit us, hang out with us at marylandmentor.net or mentoring.org to learn more about how we can support. And these are some of our additional tools which are available for download, additional guides on very specific topics as we work with specific groups of young people and target populations. So without further ado, I'm excited to pass it to my colleague, Mr. Antoine Baggett, who will walk us through and really help us frame today's conversation. Antoine?
Great, thanks, Sadiq. So hi, everybody. Again, my name is Antoine Baggett. I am the Baltimore City Schools Mentoring Pilot Vista. That's another thing you can try saying 3 times fast. I'm the Baltimore City Schools Mentoring Pilot Vista here at Maryland Mentor. For the past few months, I've been working diligently with Baltimore City School District to create a career mentoring program for 9th graders in a few schools. And that's really helped me frame today's question: how do we better prepare our young people for the future of work? Again, I and several colleagues have been researching the best practices for workplace mentoring and how we can best implement them. So again, how do we better prepare our young people for the future of work? This is the question that we want to address today. So with that, we can move on to some key facts on youth employment, some more things we can consider to help frame today's conversation. First, the percentage of youth who are employed has been increasing since the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, also known as the 2008 banking crisis, although employment rates are still not as high as they were in 2006 for both youth in and out of school. We have a dearth of youth employment and have had one for about a decade now. In 2018, among youth ages 16 to 24 not currently enrolled in school, those with higher levels of education had higher employment rates. Throughout conversations about youth employment, throughout conversations in youth workplace mentoring, we want to emphasize the importance of getting a college education, or at least the utility of a college degree. In 2018, the employment rate for youth with disabilities ages 20 to 24 was about half that of their peers without disabilities, 38 and 67% respectively. So again, uh, we want to put those with disabilities at the center of the conversation to understand that there are many obstacles that folks with disabilities face in the job search. Next, the labor force participation rate of young people aged 15 to 24 has continued to decline between 1999 and 2019, despite the global youth population increasing from 1 billion to 1.3 billion. The total number of youth people engaged in the labor force, or those who are either employed or unemployed, decreased from 568 million to 497 million. So again, reemphasizing this dearth we have in youth employment, despite the increase of folks in the ages of 15 to 24, we've seen a gradual decrease in employment numbers. And finally, while this trend reflects growing enrollment in secondary and tertiary education, resulting in a better skilled workforce in many countries, it also highlights the substantial number of young people who are not in employment, education, or training, also known as NEETs, a large majority of whom are young women. So another group that we want to frame in this conversation are women. We want to talk about gender as it relates to youth employment. So keeping those things in mind for today's conversation, we can move on, and I'll talk about a key resource for understanding the best practices for workplace mentoring, one that has kept up with our 21st century trends, like first, a growing emphasis on equity, a general desire to strengthen talent pipelines, and efforts to integrate opportunity youth into the labor market. Well, we want to direct your attention to the workplace mentoring supplement for the elements of effective practice for mentoring. So Mentor National, our parent organization, has developed the elements of effective practice for mentoring to consolidate and summarize all of the best practices for any mentoring program. And the workplace mentoring supplement highlights all of the best practices for workplace mentoring. Some common contexts for career force mentoring include career exploration, work-based learning, job shadowing, internships and apprenticeships, new employee onboarding, and academic mentoring. So all of these things are going to go into a common curriculum for workplace mentoring. And I will post the link for that if you want to check that out. It's a really excellent resource, and we've been using it in developing the Baltimore City Schools mentoring strategy. So I'll post that link shortly. And with that, I'll pass it on to my colleague Sadiq, who will introduce today's panelists.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Antoine, for that grounding in research. And I think, we're going to hear from our panelists anecdotally around how some of those exact pieces, actually manifest in real life. And we are joined by an amazing panel that I'm super excited about. So we're just going to go ahead and jump in. I think I see everybody. Kurt, King, Asia, Anissa. Is Anissa here? Making sure that Anissa's here.
I'm
Um,
here.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to read a little bit about this, but also allow each panelist to also give more about their background through the course of the conversation. But first and foremost, I want to introduce Mr. Albert Phillips Jr., who's a work-based learning specialist at Baltimore City Schools. He is also a recently minted author, and I'm so excited to hear more about his recent work and to allow him to be able to share that with you all. He's also has an extensive experience working with young people in workforce development programs, as well as mentoring and in a variety of other settings. We are also joined by Miss Anissa Campbell, who is a student at the Almighty Morgan State University. Go Bears. I don't know if y'all can tell, that's where I went as well. But we're super excited to hear from Anissa and her story about, traversing and finding her way into her passion and her career, her future career as a world-class swimmer and swim instructor. So she has a very, very cool story. Also, Mr. Kurt Carrington, who is the workforce director of the Eastside Career Center with the Baltimore's Mayor's Office of Employment Development. Again, also has an extensive background in not only workforce development, but also youth workforce development. Um, and Kirk and I are also fellow classmates from Morgan State University. This is like the all Morgan panel. We're also joined by Miss Asia Stewart, who is a current nursing student, has matriculated through um, the Youth Works system here in Baltimore City, and we're joined by several Youth Works friends and colleagues. Mr. Tim Johnson, I see you out there. Appreciate you. Um, we're also joined by Ms. Sharita Morrison, who's the Director of Youth Workforce Development at Presley Ridge. And again, prior to that role, Ms. Morrison was the lead of Baltimore County's Youth Workforce Development programming. Again, is an amazing practitioner and also an organizational development practitioner who, again, just has extensive experience working with and creating programming to better support our young people in the workplace. And then lastly, Mr. King Richardson, who is a freshman at the Morehouse College, is literally the only other university that I respect is Morehouse. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I love Morehouse. I love Morgan. My parents both went to Howard. That's maybe TMI. But we're super excited to hear from you all. Esteemed panelists, are you all with us?
We're in the
I'm
building.
here. Yes.
So let's jump right in. I'm gonna throw you guys a really nice grapefruit, as they say. So I would love to first off, if we can open up with one of our young people, and maybe that's Miss Anissa. Anissa, can you tell us about your youth employment experience? Right, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because I imagine there were
Hi.
some good pieces, but there were also some challenging pieces as well.
It is both good and bad parts to having a job so young. So, my name is Anissa. I'm a freshman at Morgan State University, and currently I work at Merit Clubs Canton as a swim instructor, deck manager, lifeguard, and soon to be a swim coach. Originally, I started working my junior year of high school, and I started working in food service at a regular like fast food spot. And I would work every day until 9 p.m. from 4 to 9. And I would never have time for any of my homework. And then I realized like this is not going to be like this is not worth it losing my education over. So I met someone that like, oh, I have a job opportunity at Merit Clubs Canton for a lifeguard. So I was on the swim team at Carver Vocational Technical High School in Baltimore City, and I was on the swim team and a lifeguard at Baltimore City pools before I moved over to Merit Clubs. And I was like, okay, maybe this will be a new opportunity. It was less money, but a new opportunity. And I decided, okay, I think I can deal with less money because it has more flexible schedules and more caring people. I originally went over there and only wanted to lifeguard, and to only find out that I wanted to coach a swim team and make an impact on younger students' lives in the swimming world, because I realized that swimming is so much fun, and then you can make such a huge impact on little people and seeing their improvement in something that they were originally scared of.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I would just ask one quick follow-up question before we bring in Asia and King. But like, what was the one moment where it clicked for you that this this job that you were working, or this series of jobs, was not really worth your time? What clicked for you in that moment?
In that moment, I realized that it was one day I was just watching other people teach swim lessons. And I reached out to my manager and I said, I think I want to start, teaching little kids how to swim. And that was from the root of like, okay, teaching young kids how to float and then start swimming. But then I realized that I have more of a passion to coach, because when I was a swim team captain at Carver, I led my team. And I was like, I feel like coaching could be better for me because I can make more of an impact, and coaches have more of an impact than swim instructors. Because once you're done with swim instructors, you head over to coaches. And coaching is not just about a sport. It's about like life skills and character development and improvement in not only swimming, but in yourself, and having goals and setting goals. And sometimes when students give up, they need a person or a coach or someone to keep them pushing.
That's great. That's great. King, I will toss it over to you. Tell us about your youth employment experience, on your way to Morehouse.
Okay, so I started working with YouthWorks my the freshman of my summer year, and for me it's been completely different because for me, I'm really into sports and I've known that my entire life. So the jobs I had really didn't have anything to do with. So, and so while so when I would work there, it was really just to get money. But what YouthWorks told me was a lot of like the little things, knowing how to get up every morning, knowing how to catch, knowing when the how to budget time, knowing how to catch the bus, knowing how to be independent with your money. I think that was probably the biggest lesson because when I look back, because I worked all throughout high school, I look back and I'm like, I don't have any money from high school. I don't. I spent all of it on like a lot of the dumb things. So now when I get money, I can look back at that and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be smarter. So now that I'm in a business school at Morehouse, I now have not only do I have what the classes teach me, now I have some life experience. So when I can make smart decisions with my money, and as as I go on in life, these are things that will, I mean, the lessons I learned about money will help me wherever I go.
That's great, King. Thank you so much for being open on that. I would also ask, like, what if anything could your youth works supervisors have done, even though those were jobs that you weren't necessarily, or careers that you weren't necessarily interested in? What could they have done to help you get those lessons sooner? Because it sounds like you got the lesson, but it was after the money was already gone. So just using that as an example, what's something that maybe they could have done to help you get those lessons sooner?
I think I think for me, just not worrying about like money that would satisfy your needs like right now. That was really my biggest problem, was satisfying things right now, like food or shoes or clothes, just thinking more long term about it. Because now I know that, because I look back, I'm like, I don't really have anything I spent on those stuff I really didn't need. So if they could have just told me and like warned me, like, don't don't worry about how you feel right now with your money. Just think about it more long term. I think I probably would have had more of it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Asia, jump in here. Tell us about your youth employment experience and what you're doing now.
She's on mute.
Okay, okay, okay.
I didn't even realize that I was on mute. Um, my youth experience, it actually was good. I started my freshman year of high school. Um, I feel that it was really good for me because it gave me an opportunity to have a job when I was young, and most of the jobs that I did, they were like different categories. So I feel as though it gave me experience in a lot of things. So like if I wanted to apply for a certain job today, I would have experience in that, and that's what I really like the most about it. I feel that it really helped me out a lot because it helped me start at a young age, learning how to get money on my own, working on my own, not having to like depend on anybody. Even though I was young, I could depend on my parents, but it like it set me off straight. It put my head on straight, and it just made me want to work. I knew I've always wanted to work, but it just gave me a better opportunity in getting a job because I know that when you're young, of course you can't get like real life jobs out in the world, but youth works, it actually helps you get a job starting at the age of 14. Um, right now I'm a nursing student. I in 2020 I started a certified nursing assistant program through Bond Secures Community Works. It works. And I got my CNA license. I also have my medication technician license. One of the jobs I was working, they actually helped me get that license through that job. So now I'm doing nursing,
Mm,
but I
so
want to further my nursing education though.
that's great, but you took a roundabout path in order to realize that.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. All right, awesome. Let's bring in our more mature, our more seasoned panelists. I gotta call y'all old. Um, so Sharita, let's get you in this conversation. Sharita, what would you say are some of the common challenges that you hear from young people as it pertains to getting that first job?
One of the common challenges I hear often is the jobs are asking for experience, and there's the question I often get asked is, how am I supposed to get the experience to do the job if no one will give me the experience so that I can have it and move forward? Which is a common challenge for young people who are starting out. So I think the three young people who just shared have an advantage because they have that fresh experience from summer employment, transferable skills from school that they certainly can apply. But I know that's one challenge that I hear from young people often is that experience. How do I get it if no one's willing to give me a shot?
That's right. That's right. Kirk or Albert, what would y'all add?
Yeah, I can jump in. First of all, I just want to say good afternoon. I see a lot of familiar faces in here. So good to see so many people I consider, family and friends in the space. So many of the young people that I work with, their employment journey mirrors mine in a lot of ways, especially when I think about just their approach to job searching, um, their approach to preparing a resume. Many of these things are very similar, but I know a lot of young people who I connect with, they're trying to get that bag, they're trying to get paid. And so that sometimes they have unrealistic views of how much money they're supposed to get paid at a job starting off. They might not necessarily understand, wages and salary bands and things like that. And so just being able to have that conversation with them is fruitful.
No, that's great. That's great. I remember a similar conversation with a young person, like, or it might have been with their parent, and they like showed them their paycheck, like, hey, this is how much we get paid, but here's how much other stuff actually costs. And it was just such a light bulb moment for that young person in that conversation. So that's great. Kirk.
So how's everybody doing? So what I would say is one of the things that I believe is a challenge for a number of young people with the employment search is the places that they go are not intentional about how they want to develop the young person. They actually hire them on as if they're just a normal employee, not understanding that they have to do a little bit more and they have to have um, a different level of patience with the individual that they're working with, and that the individual that they're getting also may not only lack skill, but lack a certain level of maturity when it comes down to the workplace and the workplace environment. So I think one of those things that I would say to any employer or admonish them as far as aiding a young person and getting that first experience is have in your mind an intentional developmental plan of what you would like to develop within the young person. Um, and skill sets, not only just work ethic that you want to develop in them, but also uh, I would say character development becomes a thing when you're doing mentoring. It's not just about, oh, were they able to come to work and clock in on time, or there are young individuals who they may not have the attire. So did you coach them? And any of my Morganites, you all may remember this, or we used to do this when I was in school. So when we wanted to get up and go out and we didn't have the money to get dressed, we would go to the thrift shops, and you learned how to style an outfit from going to the thrift store. So you could get a blazer for $2, or you could get what you needed at a lower rate. Well, when you're dealing with a young person who's coming to work and, mom and dad may not have it, or the family they may not be the best dressed. So having a developmental conversation with them to get them to think outside of the box of ways that they can actually meet their needs and get things that they need to have so that they can perform the job and feel good about what they're doing. So now, not only are you giving the person a job skill, but you're giving them a life skill to say that, you know, there's more than one way. So that would be something that I would say uh, professionals can do to aid young job seekers who are coming to them. Like, be intentional in what you're trying to do for them, other than just hire somebody who may be a less costly worker.
That's so good, Kirk. And I was gonna distill it all down exactly, and you just finished it up. Just being intentional. I love that. I love that so much. And especially again in light of some of the stats that Antoine shared earlier, we have an issue right now. We have a serious issue. So I'd like to go back to our young people. And Kirk, you gave us an amazing segue. But I would ask our young adult panelists, based on the experiences that you've gone through, what feedback would you give to some of those places that you work, right? So they're not here right now. Or I don't know, maybe one of them might be here, but how would you fire them up right now? How could they have done a better job of being intentional? To Kirk's point, what advice would you give if you had a supervisor or a business owner in front of you right now? What advice would you give to them about working better with young people? And any of you all can jump in.
I would like to
That
go first.
Thank you, Anissa.
All right. Ref- mm, like tips that I would give to my previous employer to be more considerate of everyone's schedule. Not everyone can, do everything. Not everyone's superwoman. Not everybody wants to work, all day, every day. Some people want time to have self care, do homework, do schoolwork. And a lot of employers don't understand what being considerate is.
That was amazing. What? You mean young people deserve self-care? That's
Yes.
crazy. And like
Yes.
consideration when scheduling? That's a major key, Anissa. Thank you for that. Hmm. Asia and King, what if you got your supervisor, one of your first, especially I want you to think of your terrible supervisor, right? Because you know, I had some terrible ones coming up. But the job that you didn't get much from besides that paycheck, what advice would you give to them about how they could have made it a better experience for you as a young person?
I can go. I agree with Anissa, and I would also say, as she said, be considerate. I would say be understanding, because you never know what people are going through. I would also say like 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 what's the word I'm trying to say? Think about what you say before how you say it, because sometimes a lot of employers can be like really rude for no reason, and
Mm,
I would say they need to think about what they say before they actually say it to you, because as I said, a lot of people go through things that you wouldn't even know.
that's great. So again, I'm hearing for our employers, if you want respect, we have to give respect even to young people, which is that common sort of crazy old like golden rule thing, right? Treat people not just how they want to be treated, but how they want to be treated as well. Um, that's powerful.
Um,
King, what you say?
For me, it would probably just be like transparent. Like sometimes I would do a task and then I would somewhat complete it, but I really wouldn't know if I completed it to the way they would like it. And I'm just kind of sitting here waiting. And then they come back and they're like, "Oh, I wanted it like this." And in my mind, I'm like, "Well, you should have kind of. I wish you would have said that. I would have done it like this instead of wasting my time doing it a way that I was doing it a way that you didn't like." So just being transparent, I think, just will be easier, because then, I mean, if I may complain, but at least I can't say, at least I won't be confused.
Major key, which again is an affliction of not just supervisors of young people, but shout out to my supervisors of adults that either struggle or have been victim of that exact same scenario. So great call, King. Kirk, you want to jump in?
yeah, so I think something that a lot of employers can do, if you want an honest assessment about your organization's leadership and management capacity, have youth. as employees and staff. Because youth, they say if you ever want to know the truth, ask a child. And that's the same way it is about employing youth in your organization or in some capacity. If you really want to know how well you do with leadership and management as an organization, employ youth for a period of time, and then get an assessment of your leaders, your managers, your staff members, because what you tend to do is what adults won't do. So adults will adjust. We'll think about the bills that we have to pay or the responsibilities that we have to deal with. We will reassess how we feel about somebody. We've already been conditioned to, if we have a manager who's horrible, we've already been conditioned to say, well, you know what? I don't have to respond to the manager. I just have to come in and do my job and leave. Well, youth don't behave that way. When youth have a horrible manager, they literally embody, I hate this person because they do these things, or you don't communicate well, or you don't X, Y, and Z. So I think a lot of times when you are looking at organizations and what they do and how you want to assess your organization, be an organization that will employ youth. And get assessments from them about your leadership and your management. Because as we've heard from our younger counterparts here or our younger colleagues here, everything that they've said are things that when you do managerial training, you want from better leaders. And so that's just, where I wanted to jump in. And I think Sharita was waiting on me to be done.
Now that I would just say that was amazing, Kirk, especially in terms of, we go out to eat at restaurants, right? Me, like my wife and I, we have 5 kids, right? So we're always, and two really young ones, 7 and 3. So we're always looking for those restaurants that are kid friendly, family friendly. But I look at your comments and I'm like, man, we almost need to be designating or self-designating our workforce employment partners as youth friendly. Who are the youth friendly employers that have undergone this training, that take it seriously, that are open to feedback, that acknowledge the need for self-care with our young people? I just think that's an amazing point.
Yeah.
Please, Sharita.
And to Kurt's point, one of the things that I also share is in addition to the workplace, but also as we prepare them for the workplace, to have them on your committees, to have them. I've had youth sit on interview panels to hire staff that would work with them, because it's vitally important that as they work with the individuals who are coming on board, that their voice is at play. I had young people say, I don't want someone who's banging down my door, so putting that young person, on your committee, allowing them to develop their own committee. I've had them in interviews. I've even done focus groups with young people to help adjust programs. We run foster care programs in independent living. And what we thought we were doing at the advantage of some of our youth, we got feedback that it was actually at the detriment. So we literally revamped programming based solely on the feedback of our young adults, and it worked better in their advantage than not having their voice. So the youth voice is tremendously important.
Can I add in on that? I definitely agree 1,000% with everything that everyone has mentioned. And additionally, as we talk about youth leadership, I would also advise organizations to put youth on their board. Be willing to really, put that line in the dirt and say, hey, we value you. We want you a part of our decision-making body when it comes to our organization, especially an organization that is supposed to be serving youth. I think it's important to have youth in the room, because oftentimes we have conversations about young people, but they're not a part of the conversation. Like, they're not included in the conversation. So just wanted to add on that point as well.
That's great. That's great. Kirk, you had something, and we want to get to these young people too.
Depending on Sharita's point, as far as including youth, they also have a tendency to ask questions that other people in the room won't ask or are afraid to ask. So having youth in the room, you also now have someone who will ask the question, because at times they have a very straight line logic towards something, even if they behave illogical, they generally have straight logic. So when you're coming up with things that don't make sense, they kind of ask the question and you're like, you know what, that's a valid point. So to Sharita's point, it is definitely a good idea that if you can get them involved and get them engaged, you know, run a couple of things by them and they will ask the questions that help you fill in some of the holes that you may be missing from your more seasoned perspective.
No, amazing, amazing conversation. We invite our participants in the audience. Please start dropping some questions in for our panelists as well, so we can get to those in the next couple of moments. That would be amazing. But I would love to transition back to some of our young adult panelists and ask this question. So, in the same regard that we would give advice to those employers um, who host young people, right? In terms of, again, I just love this idea of just youth-friendly employers and making sure that those employers are doing what needs to be done. But I would ask in that same sort of vein of self-advocacy, how would you young adult leaders, what advice or feedback would you give to young people who are stepping into their first jobs, right? And beginning to think about their careers, et cetera. What advice or feedback would you give to other young people?
Advice that I would give to students, or well, more than likely they're going to be students. I would say, like, just take your time and pace yourself, because you don't know what, like, may be too much for you, and like the money may be okay in your eyes for the time being, but it's not okay for like school or your career. Like, that may not be what you want to do. People think like, oh, I got a job at McDonald's and I make 700 every 2 weeks. Okay, but are you passing your classes though? Like, some of that stuff doesn't matter, and it's not going to advance you anywhere. And just having McDonald's on your resume won't get you anywhere. And like finding jobs that really could advance you and give you new opportunities is what you should look for before going into, oh, I just need a job and I need fast money.
That's amazing.
I would say be open, take your time, make sure that the job you're working at is something that you actually want to do and not just for the money. Because if you just work for the money, you probably will like depress yourself working at a job that you really don't want to work in.
I would say just try to learn from everything. I mean, because you really can't control, your placement, and you may get placed somewhere you don't want to be. But if you just going with the attitude like I'm just trying to learn from it, and I know in 5, 6, in the long time, in the long run, you're not gonna really think about like this job I did while I was in high school, but you can still learn stuff from whatever job you're placed at.
No, that's amazing. Again, great conversation. Let's switch gears a little bit because again, as is always the case, right? Everything happens as it should. Rachel in the audience asked an amazing question, one that we wanted to actually get to through the course of our conversation. But obviously, our core audience today are youth development professionals. And really, the objective of this conversation today was giving advice and feedback to mentoring and youth development programs, how they can start preparing our young people now for the future of work. So that's the question we would open it up to the panelists via Rachel. Is what advice would you all give? And this is really open to anyone. But what advice would you give to mentors or mentoring organizations in terms of activities and practices that they can put into place right now to start preparing our young people?
So I was excited to see that question. One of the things so I'm an OD practitioner, right? And when I was in college, no one ever talked about being an OD practitioner. I'd never heard of one before. Wouldn't know where to find one if you asked me. And there are lots of companies hiring OD practitioners. One of the things I would strongly advise that I think is very fun is to take field trips. I think all professionals and professionals serving young adults should immerse themselves in occupations and careers that are out there where you can have an opportunity to kind of go out and explore them yourself. So when I worked for Baltimore County government, we had the Department of Public Works come in, and they started telling us about all of these amazing opportunities that they had within their organization. And the first question he asked me was, what do you think we do here? And I said, I think you deal with dirty water and poop. I was like, I mean, that was all I could come up with, is like, there's some filtration of water and then that's it. But when they really walked us through what they did, I said, we really need to get out here and start doing career exploration ourselves, and then taking our students out to do the same thing. So one thing we implemented last year at Presley Ridge was we started these career exploration field trips. And we would go out into the community with our young adults and meet a multitude of businesses across industries and have them walk us through like a day in the life. But we would usually, pre-COVID, not last year, 2020 went by fast. I mean, 2019. In 2019, we walked through a lot of careers, and it was amazing. I think we started out in some small places. We went to the Amazon warehouses, we went to medical facilities, but then we went to like corporate locations and had large meetings where our students were able to sit in and interview employees about what they did. But I think being able to immerse the student and yourself in that experience really will help, one, bring an exciting component to exploring careers outside of using the internet. And two, I think just having the opportunity to get them hands-on and in front of the people who work there and the stories that they have to tell about how they got there as well.
Yes. Go ahead, Kurt.
Go ahead, Albert. You got it. I've spoken a lot, brother. So I yield to you, and then I'll go.
It's all love. I agree 1,000% with Sharita, especially that last point when she mentioned being able to connect with people directly. I think in this virtual world, it's a lot of kind of indirect, unnormal type of communication, right? Like, I don't think that we are naturally created just to connect through screens, but that's just the world that we're in today. But I think it's important for us, especially mentoring folks, to acknowledge that with students, like, hey, like this is where we are right now. I don't like it. I know you don't like it, but let's try to make the best of the situation. I posted in the chat a link to the Career Readiness newsletter with Baltimore City Public Schools. We host a number of citywide events that we invite our high school students, and we're also going to be looping in our middle school and elementary school students to participate in order to learn more about careers, in order to have those exploratory and awareness type of activity. So for instance, today, we partnered with Emerson Westside High School, and we had a mini conference on careers in transportation, because that's one of the career pathways at the school. So students were able to talk to the Coast Guard. They were able to talk to a number of employers who offer transportation careers to be able to pick and choose, right? Like, see what's out there, what's available, to be able to ask those questions. Last week we had an event called CTE Friday, where we were able to expose students to careers in IT. So they were able to talk to folks from Bite Back and Empower and many of the IT organizations that are local and regional, to be able to learn about what type of certifications do I need? What type of experience do I need to have? What should I be doing now, right? Like, I'm a ninth grade student in school right now. I'm tired of Zoom, but what do I need to learn right now in order to get to that position, to that role, and be successful in it? And so I think being able to give our students the ability to ask those questions to professionals is really important. So I would even consider thinking about your employer, right? Like, your job may have 50, 100 different positions, people doing all types of things. Have you considered talking to your job and saying, hey, I have a group of young people who are interested in careers. Could we possibly, do some type of virtual job shadow experience or something where they can be exposed to what's out there and what's available?
And so for my contribution to this, I would say start working with getting them to think outside of the normal box of what is a skill. So oftentimes, the question does come up, hey, you want me to develop a resume? I don't have any skills. I've never worked before, so how do I build a resume? So one of the things is you can help show them how their daily activities develop some form of skill within them. If they are part of a club, if they've been on a team, how their actual extracurricular engagements can formulate into skills that employers look for on a resume. Uh, this individual was not a youth, but I thought it was the most brilliant thing when a colleague of mine, she sent all of us that are in, because we have our own little groups, she sent us the resume of a gentleman who he had been a stay-at-home father for a number of years because he and his wife had made the decision based on income that it would be more beneficial for him to stay at home rather than her due to whatever the situation was, and he was re-entering the workforce. And so to close up his resume, he actually put down stay-at-home father, and then he listed out an entire job description regarding time management skills, multitasking, and he listed out all of these skills that it takes to execute stay at home. He said home operations management, schedule management, and it was very detailed. But and she when she placed it in the group, of course, she was lamenting like, how dare he try to do this? And then, in good brotherhood fashion, all the gentlemen jumped on and said, well, what's the problem? These are actually skills that you look for in the workplace. So he put down conflict resolution because he said, as a part of the thing, he's often breaking up arguments between his children. So he has to implement conflict resolution skills and things of that nature. Saying all of that to say, work with your young people to show them how a lot of the things that they do in their everyday life can translate into skills that we look for in people at work. Um, and so that's a good way to help them. Another thing, to my colleagues' points, start reaching out to your actual professional network of friends and introduce them to the young people that you work with or that you engage with. We all have friends, and all of our friends have jobs. Um, so this kind of drifts into my networking spiel to individuals. We also have family members, and all of our family members have jobs. But I'm quite sure that the majority of people on this line have no real clue what most of their friends or their family members do as a profession. And so you don't even know the resources that may be right next to you on an everyday basis. But if you were to, just have a reason to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing a bring a friend or a family member to work day. And, just let's talk about your job and what you do. And you could find out that you have friends who could open the eyes of your youth that you're mentoring to a lot of things that they never thought about, like game designers and neuroscientists or chemical engineers or even into the trade effect, welders and the individuals who build like the furniture that we use every day and how lucrative that business is. So those are two things that you can really do to start developing your young people now. One, talk to them about what they already do in their daily life and show them the skills that are coming out of those activities. And then, reach into your own network and start bringing those connections together to introduce them to some, new and creative things that they may not have thought about before as opportunities for them to pursue in their future.
That was amazing, Kirk, man. You dropped two major keys again, all about reframing those assets and tapping into uh, our potential and our network that's right in front of us. I love that. It's really again mining for those diamonds. Absolutely amazing. I want to switch gears for a quick second and then end with a youth question. But I want to because again I think we've danced around it a little bit, and I want to be able to because again, I'm just so impressed by this work. And it's again a critical conversation that's really at the intersection of self-advocacy, but also in disaggregating our policies and our practices for the audiences that we serve. So I want to pass it to back to Albert to allow him the opportunity to speak about the book that he recently released and published and why it's so important to disaggregate and to ensure that we have specific tips and strategies for Black youth, for brown youth, and for all of the different populations of young people that we serve, because we can't implement cookie cutter approaches, right? Because there are some very specific challenges. So Albert, if you could speak a little bit to your book, the inspiration behind it, and what you hope folks take away from it.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. I think there are a few things that we have to acknowledge. One of them is that young adults, teenagers, are not just like smaller versions of like older people. We also have to acknowledge that Black people are not just shaded in white people. And so we have to understand that everything cannot be a cookie cutter approach. Even as we're talking about employment, right, which is huge. Most of us at some point in our lives are going to get a job, right? The majority of us. But I think it's important, and just as we talk about resume preparation and interviews and many of the other topics that we have with our young people, we have to also be talking to them about workplace discrimination. We have to be talking to them about what are some things and some challenges that you might face because of who you are, because of your Blackness, because everybody doesn't necessarily value you in the workplace. Although many people have the slogans that say that they're an equal opportunity employer, especially now, it's really cool to like say that you're really down with Black people, but everybody is not truly showing that in their policy and their practices. And so that's what encouraged me to write the book. It details some of my personal experience, and here's the book right here. My background is probably messing it up, but it's called Y'all Hiring: A Black Teen's Guide to Navigating Employment. Thank you for someone for putting it in the chat, but I wanted it to be something that was concise, comprehensive, and also actionable. It's not just like theoretical and full of ideas, but it actually details steps to deal with some of the common things that our young people deal with as far as employment. And then lastly, to wrap it up, the title Y'all Hiring came from, I think a lot of us had that y'all hiring experience when we're job searching, and we're just trying to get that job. Like, we don't really care about you as a person. We're just trying to make some money. And so we walk into a job, we walk into an employer, and we're like, hey, y'all hiring, right? Like no prep, like no, hey, how you doing today? None of that. And I wanted to be something real and culturally relevant to our young people. And finally, I got that title from my experience, obviously, but I was in Mondawmin Mall at the Great Cookie, getting some cookies that I probably ain't need. And a student walked in from Douglas High School into the mall, and I'm sitting there thinking like, what the title of my book? And she walks up to the Great Cookie as I'm ordering, and it was like, yo, y'all hiring? And I was like, that's what it is. So that's some of the inspiration, but that's what the book is about. Again, y'all can check it out at y'allhiring.com, and the link is in the chat. The link is in the chat.
No, thank you so much for that, Albert. Again, like we said, we have to disaggregate the data as we're talking about equity and how to ensure that our policies are not perpetuating inequity. The lowest hanging fruit is to disaggregate and to ensure that we are speaking to our young people, to their specific experiences, to their specific reality, not the way we'd like it to be, or 50 years in the future, but our practices need to reflect their current reality as we guide them towards a future that is hopefully of their own design. The last question that I want to add, Sharita, did you have something?
I did.
Please add in.
I just want to say too, just to Albert's point, first of all, I was at work and someone brought his book up to me and I was like, that's dope. I like that title. So kudos to you. I'm glad to be on this panel with you. The second thing is I saw someone drop it in the comments, but I was going to share it. Imposter syndrome. There are two things: imposter syndrome and workplace politics. I think, something that our young people should know that we as adults are still even trying to figure out to some end. But but speaking life into the young person so that they know that despite their age, that we don't forsake their youth, that they matter and their voice matters, so that they have something to contribute and bring to the table. So that speaking life component is not technically a workforce skill, but I would say finding space to always speak life into them so that they bring the value that's hidden inside of them. And then the second thing is the workplace politics. I had a hard road trying to figure that out. Growing up in Baltimore, coming into the workplace, I was young, just like you said, I spoke my mind, and I got into some spaces and got in a lot of trouble in the beginning. I figured it out after a while, but I got in some trouble along the way. So figuring out that workplace politic component is important for figuring out how to strategically navigate it while remaining authentic.
Now, listen, Sharita, we gotta close. Kurt, give me 1 second, because we gotta move into this next piece. And I want to get these young people the final word. Go ahead though, because I love and I respect you.
So I appreciate that. And I'm just going to throw this in to go to Albert's point. I just posted a link for cultural proficiency continuum, so that people can actually know that there is a range that you fall on that. And based on the things that you say and how you think, it actually impacts where you are. And oftentimes we don't talk about that continuum and, just actually understanding that you don't have to tiptoe around people or falsify who you are in order to be understanding to the differences. So, take a look at that, read through it. It's good information. It may help a number of people out in regards of how to actually operate in a equitable manner without being inauthentic to yourself.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I appreciate you all so much. I wanted to thank you for that, Kurt. See that? I'm glad we gave you the alley-oop, man. Let you slam dunk it. I want to give the final word for this section of our program as we start to head towards conclusion to our young people. And I think there was a really amazing question that was asked in the chat box a little while ago by Ryan, and the question really spoke to asking our young people what type of either formal via a program or informal mentoring that you had either in your family or in the community or via an employer that just kind of inherently got you. They were able to speak the language of young people and support you and help you navigate much of what Sharita just spoke about in terms of some of those workplace politics, et cetera. But I would just ask each of our young people to talk about what kind of mentor did you have, informal or informal, and B, if you didn't have an amazing mentor formally or informally, which you probably did, what qualities would you look, or what would you look to a mentor for? So again, two parts. Who helped you, who helped guide you, if at all, in your experience up to now? And then again, part B, what would you look for in a mentor?
Personally, my mentor was it's currently my manager right now, and that's a formal relationship. It's a professional relationship, but I get a lot of my experience and knowledge from her within coaching and stuff. And also, what I look personally in a personal mentor, what I look for in a mentor is someone that you can talk to, because mentors, you want somebody that doesn't judge you, that sits and they talk to you, and they relate to you, not someone that's going to be like, oh wow, is this what you really want? Is this what you want to do? And then question it. And you just sometimes need that support from a person that's not, it's just, you need the support differently, not at a family aspect or not at a, manager aspect. You need someone that you can talk to, no matter what. That's the type of person or mentor that people look for with mentors. And then of course it's still a networking and a professional side to it, but it also needs to be that personal side where you can talk to them about anything and feel comfortable with them.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. I started to think of Sharita, or was it Albert, who said, not trying to make you like them, but listening to what you want to do and pushing you in that direction. I love it. Asia King?
I had I
You
think
can.
somebody else was trying to. Oh, well, besides my family, I had 3 mentors. I would say for YouthWorks, like when I started YouthWorks, my mentor was Mr. Tim Johnson. He was my mentor through YouthWorks. Like he was the one who like helped me get a lot of YouthWork jobs. And then when I was doing my nursing, I would say my 2 mentors for nursing was Miss Labria and Miss Mercy. They were really good mentors because like of course they was helping you with the nursing school, but outside of nursing school, they actually could help you find like job placement. Um, my ideal of a mentor is someone who actually shows interest in you in your life and someone who you can talk to about anything.
Thank you for that, Asia. Brother King, a final word on that.
For me, I didn't really have in one mentor. I just been really blessed to have a lot of different, been around a lot of different people in my life who have been very successful in what they do, and I'm a very observant person. So I will kind of like look at some of the things they do and how they work. I mean, for me to, what I would look for in a mentor is someone that's just extremely honest, extremely honest about like what you are doing, what you are not doing, where they think you're heading, what you're doing right, what you're not doing right. Just being able to have uncomfortable conversations with them. So that's what I would want.
Now that's amazing. Can we give these panelists an amazing virtual round of applause in the chat box before we move to the almost final portion of our conversation? Can we please? Normally we'll say if you took something away, if you took one thing away, type a 1 in the chat box. If this was a good conversation for you, if you took something away, there were so many amazing tidbits that were shared. So many again major keys. Amazing, amazing. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move to the next part of our conversation. Again, we're out of here at 2:30, so we're gonna make this snappy. So this is where I need everybody to put their listening hat on as we transition into the next portion of our program today. This is the part where we get you all in the game. I know we've lost a couple folks already, but there is still some amazing experience and expertise in this session, and it's evidenced by all the comments and resources and questions that are in the chat box. So right now, Antoine is going to drop a link in the chat box that we ask everybody click on. It's going to take you to a Google slideshow. Okay. So if everybody can click on that link, we are then going to assign you to a corresponding breakout room where we're going to engage in some small group conversations really quickly and help answer just a couple of questions on each slide where we can bring to bear your respective expertise. So please open this link and or copy and paste it in a safe space. That's for our panelists as well. If you guys can click that link, open that up in your window. Make sure that I've opened up my own link here, right? So each person, right, and again, about 30 seconds is going to be assigned to a breakout room. And in your breakout room, we're going to engage in some small group conversation for about 7 minutes. But we're asking that everybody jot down, please type into your respective breakout room slide, your notes on the questions. Everybody clear on that? So again,
Yes.
just click on the link. We're going to put you in a breakout room. And in that breakout room conversation, we want you to share your thoughts on the questions, but most importantly, type your responses to those questions right now. All right, Antoine, we ready for the breakout rooms?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we'll see you all back here in about 8 minutes for us to wrap up. Get in the game. Let's go. Okay, we're slowly making it back. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't like like last period of the day. where it's like, school attendance starts off as like 1,000 people in school, but then by the last period of the day, there's like 500 students left in the school. Hopefully that wasn't the experience. Everybody left.
Yeah, we were in a really great conversation. That was good.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, it looks like everybody is back. Is everybody back, Antoine?
Yeah, we got kicked out our.
Yes. It looks like everybody's back. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we move towards conclusion, we opted to let our panel go a little bit longer in place of a full-fledged debrief and breakout. But please know that we will compile the information from those slides and send those out to all attendees who participated today. So hopefully, if we can just get some shout outs in the chat box. What was that breakout room? Did you guys have some good conversation in your breakout rooms? We would just ask that from a chat box perspective. Did we have some good conversation? Amazing, amazing, great, great. Okay, so please, again, just please be on the lookout for our follow-up after this conversation, and we'll be sending out that information and those thoughts to everyone after this conversation. So with that being said, we want to go ahead and wrap up. We wanted to turn your attention very quickly. Again, if we could just give one more round of applause. Again, just a shout out to yourselves and to our panelists. Absolutely amazing conversation today. I really, really appreciate you all for being here. And then on this slide, we just wanted to turn your attention to the remainder of National Mentoring Month, how we're celebrating here in Maryland via Maryland Mentor. Today, of course, was our third major event this month. And we have so many more events coming up, as you all can see on this slide. Most recently, it's going to be our MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., the Ultimate Mentor Roundtable Discussion, which is taking place on this coming Monday, January the 18th, from 12 to 1:30 p.m., where I'm so excited to announce we will actually be sharing the finalists and allowing the finalists from our MLK mentor essay contest. Those finalists will actually be presenting on this webinar on Monday. So we're super excited. Want to give a quick shout out that today is actually the deadline to submit an essay. That is for young people. So if you're in contact with some young people who you think might be amazing, which all of them would be, but please let them know, share this flyer with them. And then we just dropped a link to the application, but please share this essay contest with them. So again, that's Monday. On Friday, January 22nd, we're super excited about our Ordinary People Extraordinary Mentor webinar, which we're going to be sharing 10 tips for everyday mentoring that were created and compiled by the Maryland Mentor team based on our research and experience. So this webinar is open to everyone. We want just an amazing showing in this webinar because there's so many folks walking around that want to do this work but haven't really been trained. This is really almost like an introductory webinar for them. So we're really excited about that on Friday, January 22nd. Monday, January the 25th, how to avoid common mentoring program pitfalls. Maryland Mentor's own Dr. Bridges, who is in attendance today, shout out piece to Dr. Bridges, will be facilitating that conversation. So if you're running a mentoring organization and you want to make sure that you're following best practices, we got you on that during that webinar. Lastly, we'll be doing Capitol Hill Day as well as the National Mentoring Summit, which we invite everyone to, and really excited about that. Lastly, please take a moment. It's 2:30 on the dot, and this is literally our last slide. Please take a moment to complete our evaluation from today's conversation. You can hold your phone up and actually complete this evaluation right now for us. We will also drop the link in the chat box. And we really, really appreciate you all. We'll also follow up with that via email as well. But if you all could take a moment, it'll take about 90 seconds to complete that evaluation, just to let us know again how today's event was for you. And we'll rock and roll.
Is it possible that you drop the link so we can register for these workshops that you just discussed?
What? Can we? What? Team, can we drop the National Mentoring Month webpage link for that Saint who asked that. And then our local events link. So that so Antoine just dropped the National Mentoring Month page for national, and then here is our page, marylandmentor.net/NMM, National Mentoring Month, and that has links to register to all our events. And Olivia, she just dropped another one that has even more events. We just are busy bees this month. So we appreciate everybody. All right, questions, comments before we wrap up? It's already 2:31. Okay, can we drop the bit.ly link as well for folks to complete their evaluation? And with that, we're out. Really appreciate everybody. Have an awesome rest of the day, awesome rest of the week, and hopefully we'll see you again at a future Maryland Mentor training event. And happy National Mentoring Month for everybody.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have
Bye.
a good one, everyone.
See you.